Yay for us.
Yes. I should really do intros so people who actually join the recording know what they're getting into. Next week.
Well, I actually restarted the daily lessons, so those have been really good. I love the beginning ones, like this means nothing, and those my thoughts mean nothing. It's quite interesting what it does to you, how it shifts your perspectives.
We're up to 95 in the Facebook group, and yeah, they're going on 3 or 4
Ooh.
pages, so they've become
How many
quite
people
long.
belong to that group, V?
59.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah, I get some. It's funny, people don't really comment on it, but people tell me that they're getting a lot out of it. So they're kind of doing their own private thing rather than sharing. But it's a good. It keeps me accountable to make sure I'm posting and doing it myself. So
Yeah,
it's good.
good for you.
Except I noticed that I repeated lesson 95, so I've done that twice, and it was amazing to get a different perspective on the second time around. Just a few days later.
Every time you read the course, you will always get something different because you're in a different place.
Yeah.
It's curious, isn't it?
It is. It's amazing. We're up to number 6. Who wants to read that?
Well, I'll go ahead and do it.
Cool.
You want me to do it, B?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Evolution is a process in which you seem to proceed from one degree to the next. You correct your previous missteps by stepping forward. This process is actually incomprehensible in temporal terms because you return as you go forward. The atonement is the device by which you can free yourself from the past as you go ahead. It undoes your past errors, thus making it unnecessary for you to keep retracing your steps without advancing to your return. In this sense, the atonement saves time, but like the miracle it serves, does not abolish it. As long as there is need for atonement, there is need for time, but the atonement as a completed plan has unique relationship to time. Until the atonement is complete, its various phases will proceed in time, but the whole atonement stands at the time's end. At that point, the bridge of return has been built. All righty then. I got little glimmers of understanding, but certainly not an entire understanding of this one. There's some concepts in here I've not heard before, at least not in conscious memory. Anyone want to give it a go?
In very simple words, there is no time.
True.
And it's not like me just to have simple words.
This is what I found curious. The atonement is a device by which you can free yourself from the past as you go ahead. It undoes your past errors, thus making it unnecessary for you to keep retracing your steps without advancing to your return. That last line, without advancing to your return, is something that I'm still trying to kind of wrap my head around.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Well, I'm seeing when it says the process is actually in temporal terms because you return as you go forward. So I'm picturing a spiral. So you think you keep returning to the same spot to increase your level of understanding, your healing, your whatever. So if you're thinking of a spiral, then the return kind of, for me, makes sense.
That's kind of what I was getting from it too, V. You're jumping in there, Gary.
No, I'm not going to jump in yet.
So yeah, like at the beginning, we're you correct your previous missteps by stepping forward. So in a sense, to me, that's like, don't wallow in where you screwed up. Keep moving forward. You're going to come back around to it in that spiral like V described. So you're going to go and revisit each, flaw, error, mistake, whatever you want to call it, every time you come back around to it.
I think I'm beginning to get it. Thanks for that, Joe. What I just got was, it says, the process is actually incomprehensible in temporal terms because you return as you go forward. The atonement is a device by which you can free yourself from the past and go ahead. So unless well, this is what came into my mind, and it may be incorrect. But as you go forward with missteps, because missteps is not a temporal issue. Let's say I have anger that I have unresolved and I'm acting it out on different players on the stage of my life. Unless I bring that to the atonement, I repeat it again in the future because it's not been healed. It's in I'm still thinking of it in a way that it's a division. It's not in the miracle, it's not in the atonement. So as I go forward, that same anger returns to me again by different triggers. So that's how I'm kind of framing it. It's like, as long as it's not in the atonement, which means you're just seeing oneness, then it's not brought back to the place where no separation can exist. So you keep repeating it as you go forward in life, and you constantly return to it until it gets healed. What do you guys think? Is that possible?
I think anything is possible with this this one.
Well, go into the following line after that, Gary. It undoes your past errors, thus making it unnecessary for you to keep retracing your steps without advancing to your return.
So the atonement does that, right? Is that what you're saying, Joe?
Yes, I'll agree. Yeah, in a sense, yeah.
Do you mind just rereading what atonement, summarizing atonement?
I actually found it in my 142 page document.
I saw you looking at your screen and I thought, she's onto it.
That I've typed out. So I had two simplifications of the definition for me. Atonement is reconciliation with God, and it's also reconciliation or remembering who we are.
Reconciliation with God and reconciliation with remembering who we are?
Yeah.
Reconciliation or remembering who we are.
Or remembering.
Yeah.
So that still kind of all aligns, is that the atonement is, well, it said this has the Course has said this repeatedly as we've gone along, is that the atonement is really the recognition that you're one with God, as is all other things. So there's no need for judgment, there's no need for missteps if you're in that state, which very few of us are, but that seems to be the one answer to all answers in the Course in Miracles, is the atonement. Because when it says it undoes your past errors, because our errors are only an evaluation and self-judgment on ourselves. And when we realize that, we've always been one with that source, with that divine source, then we've done nothing. There's no sin, there's no missteps, there's no anything. It simply just all returns back to that. Ultimately, everything is kind of meaningless other than that atonement, because it's made up by the mind, it's made up by separation. Therefore, in reality, ultimate reality, it doesn't exist at all. But unlike the miracle it serves, does not abolish it. And these next couple lines are pretty interesting. As long as there is need for atonement, meaning that if there's need for atonement, we're not in the atonement. So there is a need for time. I know for myself, I've often said, oh, when I reach 90, I'll have this state of consciousness and awareness. And I'm like, well, why don't you just do it now, Gary? Like, why do you have to wait till you're 90 to do it? That's ridiculous, right? And so I kept thinking, that sounds about right. It does not have anything to do with time.
Well, it's just self-judgment. You can be anything you want to be at any given moment. You just got to make the choice to
Anything.
do it.
Yeah, it can be anything. It is an absolute choice of focus of the mind.
So that anger that you spoke of that you're going to come back around to in that spiral, you can choose to remain angry about it, or you can choose to work on letting it go. And every time you come back around to it, you can let a little bit more go each time until it's no longer being that trigger for you.
Well, how many of us have realized that through time, as we continue to cycle through some of these old patterns, that they end up being less and less viable, less and less strong, less real,
painful,
way less painful, and we get out of it quicker.
Yeah. I thought that was the tools I'm learning about being around great people like y'all, but that could be, you could be onto something there, Gary.
Could be. I love this one paragraph where it says, but the atonement as a completed plan has a unique relationship to time. Until the atonement is complete, its various phases will proceed in time, but the whole atonement stands at time's end. At that point, the bridge of return has been built. That one line, does that mean return, the bridge to oneness with God is built? Is that what it's saying?
I think so.
That's how I'm taking it.
Yeah. Final return, the final frontier.
It's funny. I was working with a client, and I don't know where I got this process from, but it's kind of like Ho'oponopono from the Hawaiians. But I've been doing this for a long time, V, and there's this one lady that I was working with, and she had a pretty horrible marriage experience, and her husband ended up being quite dark on multiple levels. Like, I'm talking really dark, like criminal, international drug stuff and all that, and violent, even tried to poison her at one point. And she oftentimes feels like I'm completely over it, and then a trigger will happen and it'll just nosedive her neurology and her nervous system. And I said, the only way I know, really the only way we can resolve the trauma from key significant events, we can do belief change, we can do regression, we can do all that, which we've done. But I watched the trigger happen, and I watched her begin to nosedive. And I said, the thing that has been missing in everything we've done is this one thing. Fundamentally, you haven't brought the relation back to atonement. Like, you haven't sat down and loved the soul that's animating that body who's lost, but you haven't dissolved the energy between you both in the state of pure unconditional love for the soul, not the personality. And I'll be seeing her sometime this week. I'll be very curious to find out what's happened. I was working with another client that I gave this meditation to, and he really did have an evil parent. I would say that lightly. And he's done this meditation for almost every day for almost 2 months. And his relationship, like, he's no longer afflicted by the past with her, like, absolutely not at all. So we have to kind of look that, in my opinion, when you love the soul of another, that's the atonement. When you see no distinction between you and the other person, that's the state of atonement. Will we all agree to that?
Yep.
And when we love that soul unconditionally, we're actually loving God. And that's when everything else just disappears. And then you free yourself. Because I think one of the ways that we stay enslaved, at least in my opinion, is that if you do not reach that state of forgiveness with the perpetrator of things that you feel were poorly done towards you, you stay locked in with them karmically and energetically until you can take it to the atonement stage and then truly release it. That's when it's released. It's not released. I haven't seen it released in any other way than that. And when I read A Course in Miracles, I'm like, that's what they're talking about. It's like you return it back to the state of only being able to see the soul in the other person and loving that soul. And that must be exactly what they say the atonement is. However, they, and I'm sure it's here somewhere in the Course in Miracles, but I'm not seeing, and it's probably in the daily lessons, but I'm not seeing the process of atonement clearly described yet. And since you're further along in the daily lessons, V, have you seen anything that clearly defines how to step into the state of atonement?
Not really. I don't.
Nor have I.
No, I don't think atonement has really come up in the lessons. I don't think so.
But did what I just say make sense to you guys?
Absolutely. I just forgave someone as you're talking. It's like, it just feels so good.
You're so greedy for atonement, V. Well, Joe and Linda, do you have anyone you feel like you have to do that kind of meditation for or with?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we all do, don't we?
I think so. I'm kind of running through the list right now.
I do, yeah, there's a list. I just worked on one, but there's a list, yeah.
Yeah.
I know V has helped me walk through some stuff with one of the peoples, and sometimes it didn't go so well, but I kept at it and stood my ground and held my boundaries, and fingers crossed, she was polite to me the last 2 times I saw her.
Yay.
Scary. I'm grateful though. It's a start. I'll take it. I mean, 2 days out of 15 years, I'll take it. It's a change. It's a good change going in the right direction. That's what counts. It's those little steps. It doesn't happen all in one, jump. It takes time to build up to that.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've done this. I know for a fact that they disconnect in the normal, aggressive, nasty way. They will disconnect that behavior from you. And that is where you get your freedom. Because think about it this way. I think anger and, perpetrator and victim, they have a hook that hooks them together and binds them together. And when one of the members of that toxic dynamic stops playing and goes to a very high level and contemplates this person at the truth, then the whole dynamic has to dissolve because the energetics between the two completely change. And I think first it has to change energetically before it can change behaviorally. And I really believe that. If we don't change it energetically, we cannot change the behavior around it because we're so busy contemplating the behavior. And we'll always find things to pick apart in someone else's behavior or in our own behavior. But if we go to a place where behavior doesn't matter, it's meaningless, where what they say or believe is meaningless, then, and you're only contemplating the love that is at the core of them, that is at the core of you, and you create that kind of oneness and that atonement, it dissolves all of it. It dissolves the entire narrative. It all becomes meaningless. Did that make sense to people?
Mm, absolutely.
Yeah, I was just sitting here thinking about the moment where I think the shift took place in my situation. And we were literally sitting in my son's counseling appointment, and she's been using the counseling appointment to be pretty rude. And one of the appointments, she, basically triggered me, and I was just doing my best to not respond, not say anything. And I have no clue what happened, but words came out of my mouth and jaws were dropped, and people were like, holy crap. And I was like, so that's out of the bag. And from there, things slowly shifted and started settling down. I can't even really tell you what I said, but I just thank Source. Like, those words came from somewhere and they needed to come out, and it shifted quite a lot. And it's been getting better every time.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I feel like we got some mileage out of this paragraph. What do you guys think?
Mm.
Next.
Next. Let's continue to evolve.
Yep. All right. Who wants to read number 7?
I'm voting for you, B.
All right. The atonement is a total commitment. You may still think this is associated with loss, a mistake all the separated sons of God make in one way or another. It is hard to believe a defense that cannot attack is the best defense. This is what is meant by the meek shall inherit the earth. They will literally take it over because of their strength. A two-way defense is inherently weak precisely because it has two edges and can be turned against you very unexpectedly. This possibility cannot be controlled except by miracles. The miracle turns the defense of atonement to your real protection, and as you become more and more secure, you assume more natural talent of protecting others, knowing yourself as both a brother and a son.
Wow. Does anyone want to give that a go?
I'm kind of liking that line, number 8. The miracle turns the defense of atonement to your real protection. And as you become more and more secure, you assume your natural talent of protecting others, knowing yourself as both brother and son. For me, the first part really hit. And that was kind of going back to my situation with my son's mother, where, like you were saying, just stop giving in, stop giving ammunition. Don't argue back. Just stay in your higher vibration and allow that to be exhausted, not allowing, don't feed the fire, so to say.
Yeah. There is something quite unusual that happens. Well, this is kind of what I think it is. Every single one of us is looking for the same thing. And that is, we're looking for those unconditional moments of deep, profound connection where we lose ourself either in another or in some meditational state, where we transcend our bodies and we feel one with all things. And many of us have had just glimpses, even if it's just a glimpse of that. And when we reach that state, there's kind of nothing else matters. And because we're all attempting one way or another to return back to this loving source, and we do it through a variety of different ways. We do it through the altar of our relationships, or the altar of children, or the altar of our careers. We think that is going to give us that sense of deep, profound fulfillment, but of course it never does. But when we just focus on that one thing of connecting to that divine source, then I think that is, and which is the true defense of atonement, that is our real protection against the delusion of the world. And I love that one line where it says, as you become more and more secure in the atonement, you assume your natural talent of protecting others. And I don't think it's about, personally, I don't think it's about protecting others. I think it's about acknowledging to others what you see in them, which then helps them reawaken. Because if you can see it in them, it gives more possibility for them to see it in them. And that's the true protection. Okay, did I just go off the rails, or can anyone relate to what I just said?
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah.
For me, that hit as just seeing that unconditional love in one another.
I think that's what it all boils down to. I think that is the atonement. And when their light is so covered up by their anger or their fear, I am talking to like it's the other. So as we unwrap that part of ourselves that's wrapped up by anger and fear and projection and all that stuff, and we just return to that one state. And personally, I couldn't even possibly imagine trying to return to that state unless you spend moments during the day being in that state. I think this is why I think meditation and doing the daily lessons are so important, because if we're not practicing those seconds or those minutes where we feel this state of oneness with all creation, if we can't practice that, or at least strive to practice it and get to that state, then I think it'd be really difficult to just walk out into your world and say, "Oh, I'm going to practice the atonement today," because we can't connect to it because we're not practicing it. We're not practicing the perception that we need to be able to see another in that way. So I think a daily spiritual practice is super important. Like Robert was like, "Why don't we go for a walk this morning?" And I'm like, "I got to meditate." He goes, "Well, meditate while you walk." And I'm like, "It doesn't work like that." He said, "Not even today? Not just once?" I'm like, "No, not even today, not just once." It's like I have to stay consistent and determined and disciplined, because if I'm not knowing myself like I do, I will find another reason at some point down the road to go, "Oh, sorry, just a little bit too much trouble today to try to connect with God. I think I'll just, go eat a chocolate eclair and go for a walk on the beach." It doesn't work like that. I mean, I think personally that has to be at least what I'm doing my very best to make it be in my life. This is the most important hour of my day. When I sit and I contemplate the names of God, and I do my very best to ascend up above my body and be in a state of love, appreciation, and gratitude to the divine. When I can do that, which I will say, after all these years of meditating, sometimes I can get a couple minutes of that. Most of the time, I'm wrestling with my mind. So just to be totally clear. But I know that if I do not devote that time, I would feel completely lost. I'd feel like, what am I doing here? Because then it's just about earning money, helping a few people, feeding my face, going to a movie and watch a fantasy. Like I'm just longing to go see Guardians of the Galaxy Part 3. I think what a big dream it all is. I just want to go someplace and escape into another world for a while. That's how I do it. And I'm thinking, it's all just such a nonsense. I mean, it truly is the first couple lessons in the daily lessons, which is all of this means nothing. It really doesn't, except for those moments when we can help, hopefully, wake up another person. And we can oftentimes do that by our own, how we see them. I mean, we can be a generative force for the atonement, because I do think if we can see another person in that way, it opens up the door for them to see themselves in that way. And that would be a powerful thing. And quite frankly, Joe, I think that's what you're doing with your ex-wife. You're opening up the energetic gateway to say, I have unconditional acceptance of you and all the things you've done and not done. I am choosing to call that a dream. I'm choosing to love the soul that animates your body, which is the same soul that animates mine, the same spark of the divine. And I'm choosing to love that. And when you do that, I think it opens up the possibility for her to start vibrating at that same resonance.
In a sense, yeah. It took
Say
a
that
lot
again?
in a sense, yeah, it took a lot of effort to get to that position to be able to send that vibration out. You know,
Absolutely. Well, you have to
That's
face your
right.
ego, you know? You have to face all your judgment and your fear and your anger and projection and all of that. It's like everything you made up about your life gets transferred to someone. And, you know, it's not even the truth. They've done those actions, there's no doubt. But the truth of who they are is not that. And that's what I think we have to choose to see. And the optimal word there is choice. We have to choose to see that. Even though the evidence is plain and simple and in neon right in front of us, we still have to choose to see the atonement. And personally, I think it's not like we're doing this for someone else. It's a gift to ourselves.
overall, yeah.
Oh, and completely for me. It's like, that's just a gift back to me. Oh, I seem to be talking a lot tonight.
Nothing unusual about that. But we're getting our 2 bits in, that's fine.
No, I know. God, I'm just going to shut up. You guys take it and go.
Don't be doing that now.
Same without you, Gary.
When the two of us pull out that wisdom, you got to share it.
Yeah, that's right.
Who wants-
Do we do the next one? I'll make that a bit. I'll try and get that on the one page because it's not on the one page right now. Oh, where did we go? Maybe I'll go the other way. And there we go. On the one page now. It's a big one. Who's gonna read that one?
Linda looks like she's lit up.
Yep.
Well, it's interesting because there's just certain words that ping me. The altar of God is 2 of those words that ping me. Anywho, okay, so the atonement can only be accepted within you by releasing the inner light. Since the separation, defenses have been used almost entirely to defend against the atonement and thus maintain the separation. This is generally seen as a need to protect the body. The many body fantasies in which minds engage arise from the distorted belief that the body can be used as a means for attaining atonement. Perceiving the body as a temple is only the first step in correcting this distortion, because it alters only part of it. It does recognize that atonement in physical terms is possible. I'm going to start that sentence again. It does recognize that atonement in physical terms is impossible. The next step, however, is to realize that a temple is not a structure at all. Its true holiness lies at the inner altar around which the structure is built. The emphasis on beautiful structures is a sign of the fear of atonement and an unwillingness to reach the altar itself. The real beauty of the temple cannot be seen with the physical eye. Spiritual sight, on the other hand, cannot see the structure at all because it is perfect vision. It can, however, see the altar with perfect clarity.
Wow.
Wow is right. Oh, hello. Little Miss Gracie.
How do you feel about the altar of God now? That term, Linda.
Look, it's still something that, yeah, I have to get my head around. It's partly because of my upbringing. It's partly because of my beliefs. It's that was a big mouthful. That whole thing was just a big mouthful. So, I don't know. What are your thoughts, Gary? What could you say that you could change my pinginess about the altar of God?
Are you sure you guys want me to rant? Like, Joe, you got something you want to say? V, do you have something you want to say about this one?
Let's hear it, Gary.
Okay, so here's my take on it, is that the altar of God is the physical body. It's not an external altar. It is the altar of God, which, you know, in most mystical practices, it says, you know, you are the temple and the light. So it is the body has, you know, several chakras, several energy systems within the body. So in the ancient Shurashabad yoga tradition, that the five chakras, you know, the base, the abdomen, the heart, the throat, the third eye, and the crown. And there's actually more chakras than that, but the energy centers of the body is the human body is the microcosm of all the heavens that exist in all of creation. From the subtlest realm where there's no matter, no physical matter whatsoever, it's just pure ecstatic love, down to the densest areas, which is where we are in the physical form. So the human body is actually the temple and the altar of God. This is where we make the greatest levels of spiritual progress while in the physical body. The master would always say that that the god Brahman, the god that millions and millions of Hindus worship, pines for the day it can take a human form, because only in this form can we make the greatest level of spiritual progress. So when it goes to the atonement can only be accepted within you by releasing the inner light, which is that whole process of, now, what they say is the inner light is supposedly in deep prayer and meditation, there is a light that actually appears. When the mind is focused and you begin to start bringing the energy up through the base chakras to here, there is a light that actually appears. So I'm interpreting it from releasing the inner light to focusing one pointedly on God in meditation. Since the separation, defenses have been used almost entirely to defend against the atonement and thus maintain the separation. So, since the separation, defenses have been used almost entirely to defend against the atonement. So, which just simply means we view ourselves as different. We view ourselves as individuals and the other person as an individual. So we're constantly seeing differences wherever we look, not sameness, not oneness. We're seeing differences.
We're only seeing surface. We're not seeing the depth.
We're not seeing the depth. This is generally seen as a need to protect the body, because as I judge others separate, and because if we're viewing people as separate, we're judging them, right? So if I'm judging them, I will fear judgment because I'm projecting judgment onto another. Then I will fear. If I'm doing it, I fear they will do it to me. So that gives then the birthplace as a need to protect my own body. The many body fantasies in which minds engage arise from the distorted belief that the body can be used as a means for attaining atonement. How many of us, I most certainly have said this, I just want to find someone I can really love. Right?
Oh my God, stop looking through
You know,
my window, Gary.
I know, darling. So here we are seeking atonement with another physical body. And I'm like, I mean, here's the bottom line. No matter how good your relationship is, no matter how good it is and holy and beautiful and all that, they will betray you, not because they choose to betray you, but you will perceive betrayment. Betrayment? That's not even a word. You will perceive betrayal. And as a consequence of that, we have to let each other down in that atonement, because we're seeing through a separated mind. And as long as we're seeing through a separated mind, we have fear. And if we have fear, we don't have love. So every time we try to create atonement by using our body to merge with another, I mean, you know, it's really hot for maybe, you know, half hour, maybe an hour. And if we're really lucky, a couple hours, you know, but it always comes to a collapsing climactic letdown. Yeah, true or false?
True.
So I don't know about you, V. You may be having really great body atonement these days. I don't know.
And I wouldn't say it's a letdown, but it's certainly a different energy at the end of it, yeah.
Notice how well I framed that comment. Oh,
We all
V's
knew
just
what you meant.
body atonement now. How lovely for her. Okay, so perceiving the body as a, well, I'm skipping something on body fan. Oh yeah, perceiving the body as a temple is only the first step in correcting this distortion, because it alters only part of it. So when we stop seeing our body, or start seeing our body as a temple, then that starts beginning to put it a little bit more in perspective, but not totally. It does recognize that atonement in physical terms is impossible. I think we've already talked about that. The next step, however, is to realize that a temple is not a structure at all. Its true holiness lies in the inner altar around which the structure is built, which means that spiritual light that's in each one of us is our inner altar. It's our inner sacredness. The emphasis on beautiful structures, meaning how many of us have looked into a crowd of people and sorted like, ooh, that one's hot. Oh, that one's really hot. Ooh, great booty over there. How many of us have done that? Don't tell me I'm the only one.
It's been a little bit since I have.
Oh my God, I'm so bad at that. So I'll just own that one. The next step, however, is to realize that a temple is not a structure. Its true holiness lies in the inner altar around which the structure is built, which means the soul. The emphasis on beautiful structures is a sign of fear of atonement, because you are so seeing differences then, and an unwillingness to reach the altar itself. How many of us have walked through a crowd of people and go, I wonder who's the one that is feeling and that is connected to God the most? I know that I've thought that, but I think when I'm in a crowd of people, I'm not sorting on that. Anybody here doing that?
No, but that's an interesting exercise to do.
Yeah, it would be, wouldn't it?
I more or
It would
less
be
see
good for-
individuals glow or their aura.
Yeah, I've brushed up against that. I remember once driving back from LA to San Diego after a long weekend of training and stuff up there. And as I was driving home, I remember looking at all the cars coming from Southern California, from San Diego back to LA, like just trillions and trillions of cars. And I remember thinking, I got into this real state of bliss. I remember thinking, every one of those souls has a completely independent, different life. than I do, and they think the world revolves around them. And each one of them is lost in that, but each one of them has a spark of the divine. And I began to imagine as the cars were passing me, I was going south as they were going north. I just remembered that's all sparks of the divine in this infinite ocean of divinity, in the perfection of them living out their karmic destinies in this huge matrix of life. I just started getting like deeper and deeper and deeper into that thought system. By the time I got home, I was kind of like all blissed out and stuff, watching traffic go by me. Go figure, hey? But that's what I was doing. The emphasis on beautiful structures is a sign of fear and an unwillingness to reach the altar itself. That's because if we're noticing beautiful structures, we also have to be evaluating what's beautiful. Then we're not giving the same value to a structure that isn't as ornately or beautifully put together. So we're already in separation. The real beauty of the temple cannot be seen with the physical eyes. Spiritual sight, on the other hand, cannot see the structure at all. So if we really have spiritual sight, we're not seeing the body at all because it is perfect vision. It can, however, see the altar with perfect clarity. And for me, that, in my interpretation, that just means that I can see the body for what it is, a vehicle. Okay. That's all I got to say. Does anyone have anything they want to add, subtract, throw away?
That's adding a whole other level about the body in there, because we're learning about so the body, we are not our bodies, and even judging someone as beautiful is still a judgment. However, we need our bodies in this lifetime to work through and create miracles and to reach atonement. That's what I'm kind of getting, and that's like, I remember one yoga instructor I had, we did Kundalini yoga, and she talks about that all the asanas you do, all the body movement you do in yoga, it's all just to prepare you for meditation. It's not about creating beautiful bodies. It's about preparing your body to be able to sit for long periods of time to meditate.
It's true. It's true. I mean, I absolutely love the fact that I can sit in a half lotus for an hour and 45 minutes and be fine. And I think that you're absolutely right, that it isn't about anything other than being able to have your body be in a flexible enough state that you can sit in meditation. I've just been doing this since I was 17. So I don't do asanas or anything like that. I've just sat in that position for all those years. And so it doesn't faze me. And obviously my tendons are stretched out to be able to do it. But I think it is so important, you guys, to sit and just focus on God. However you do that. If you don't have a mantra, just go to the internet and say, what are some really cool names of God? And take them from different cultures. It doesn't matter. It is the devotion in which the names are said silently inside of yourself that brings up the emotion of gratitude and love. And if you grew up in a Christian environment, maybe it's Jesus and the Holy Spirit and Mother Mary and all the other icons of Christianity. Or maybe it's something from the Vedas or some from Sanskrit. But find names of God that resonate with you and repeat them all the time, like a lover calls out for the beloved. And things begin to change.
So simple, really, isn't it?
Say again?
It's so simple. We make it so complicated.
Oh my God, we so do. We so do. People have all these different rituals and things that they think is their religion, and it's sad because if it's not If your faith is not producing unconditional love for God and its creation, then it's a false faith, because it's lost in ritual, separation, and fear. That's a big statement for me to make, by the way. But I really believe that to be true.
Yeah, and it fits really well with this particular paragraph.
Yeah.
Perfect. Anybody else want to say anything on this one? I'm not sure if we should go to the next one. We got 5 minutes. Let's see how big it is.
Not. My head's kind of spun out.
Yeah, I think we'll start that one next week then. So, well, I guess we could finish early and we'll do our little statements of what we're going to do for the rest of the week with what we've just learned.
Who'd like to go, V? Well, I'll go ahead since I'm lit up. I'm going to continue my daily lessons. I'm going to do my very best to see the light of the divine in others, not get into the narrative too much, try to introduce these principles in a gentle and loving way. Because, you know, when you work with a lot of people that are from different levels of pain that they're in, to bring in concepts oftentimes like this is too far of a stretch for some. So to have myself have the discernment to know when to bring this in, because really it's the only place where we can find peace, true peace. My word is
Gary, since you're going to be doing the daily lessons as well, if there's anything you feel like you want to share with the little Facebook group we've got, if you want to just send it to me and I'll put it to the group.
Do you give these do you send these videos out to people in the Facebook group?
The YouTube recording goes into the Facebook group, yeah.
Okay, good. Just people may get value from it, and I think I'm happy to do that if I think of anything. Yeah. But generally, I'm running around like a headless chicken, so for me to do one more thing might not happen.
Sure.
So my word is my body is a temple and atonement is the way.
Ooh, sticky.
Who's next?
Build the bridge to return.
Ooh, I'm liking it, Joey.
Yes. I feel like judgment's come up a lot for me today, so it's about remembering to notice when I am judging and to step away from that.
Yeah.
Look beyond.
Linda, did you speak your word yet?
No, I'm just thinking. So it's about that whole judgment thing, because it is something that's kind of come up today. So I'm thinking just continue seeing people in a different light.
Accepting them for who they are, how they are, when they are.
Mm.
And that is a difficult thing to do. But
it is a difficult thing to do. But
how about bypassing it? How about bypassing it all, not seeing them in a different light, but seeing the soul that is their light?
Yeah.
Because you're still in judgment if you're seeing them in a different light. But if you see
That
them
is true.
in the light of their soul, then there's nothing to judge. And there's no difficulty in that.
Mm.
But that presupposes that we can see ourselves and we can identify as the light in ourselves. So unless we can do it in ourselves, we will not be able to extend that to another. So the first task is to see it in yourself.
Well, there's daily self-judgment going on, of course.
And have you started the daily lessons yet, Linda?
No, because I'm just naughty. I have no excuses, no other reasons. I'm just naughty.
We'll start them, because if you care about your peace, you will start them.
I need to get the book. I don't have the book. I looked for it last week and then I got sidetracked again. It's my life at the moment is being sidetracked with stuff.
Well, you can just get on the internet and just Google daily lessons, and you can do it daily. Just get your daily lesson for the day,
Cool.
write it down, and just do it. You don't need the book.
Fantastic.
So if you haven't started them, I'm telling you, I'm getting a lot of value from it, and I haven't done them for a really long time. So I highly recommend it.
Thank you.
Joey,
I do
always
see the ones on the Facebook page, but I haven't committed to them.
commit. It'll be good for you. You'll have more peace and more happiness, and you'll eat pancakes instead of cereal.
I love your wisdom.
Linda's coming down this weekend. I reckon you should make pancakes for us, Linda.
I can do that. I'm really good at making pancakes, actually.
Fantastic.
So
Right.
I can do that. I've got the berries. I've got the coconut yogurt. We're all good.
Wonderful.
You can say, today I reached the atonement. I deserve pancakes.
Done
Okay.
and done.
It's good to see y'all.
Okay.
You too. Take care,
Bye.
everyone. See you on Friday, V.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.